Hello and welcome back to the 5 Minute Film Club and happy Friday the 13th. I'm really excited to be talking to you today about possibly my favourite film in the franchise, and that's Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Part 6. Can't quite believe I've got to Part 6, but here we are. The film opens with Tommy Jarvis, played by Tom Matthews, newly released from a hospital for the criminally insane. They clearly made the right judgment, as straight after his release he races back to Camp Crystal Lake to find the grave of Jason Voorhees. It's worth mentioning that the events of the previous film's ending and that idea that Tommy was going to start donning the hockey mask and being the series' new killer, well, that's completely dropped, and no mention is made of Part 5 in this film at all. Anyway, Tommy finds Jason's grave. He's accompanied by a bit of Jason fodder, really. He's another criminally insane patient from the mental institution who Tommy has left with. This seems perfectly normal. He's left with an occult manuscript. He's also somehow got Jason's hockey mask still. He's got some petrol to throw on Jason. I mean, these are all normal things that he's checked out clearly from the hospital just before he leaves. Anyway, Tommy wants to make sure that Jason is really dead, and the only way of doing that is cremating the body. Once they dig up the body, Tommy goes berserk, stabbing it with a metal rod, and then destiny does strike, and a lightning bolt hits the pole, and voila! Jason Voorhees lives. Jason rises from the grave, kills Tommy's friend by punching out his heart as Tommy flees the scene. Jason finally gets to don the hockey mask that Tommy kindly brought along with him and turns to the camera as we get a full-on James Bond introduction with Jason slashing the credits and letting the audience know the tone that we are going to get in this Part 6 film. And the rest of the film plays out pretty much in the same vein as all the others, but with a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, with Jason slowly stalking his way back to Camp Blood, or his now called Camp Forest Green, and slashing his way through camp counsellors, paintballers. He gets on top of a motorhome that's on flames for no reason other than it looks really cool. Oh, also, this film's great because it actually has kids in the camp. Who knew? I mean, the rest of the time, all these people were setting up this camp, never to actually take in any kids. I mean, those kids must have been sitting at home for the past however many years this series is now going on in this timeline, and just waiting for their parents getting calls saying, I'm terribly sorry, but there's been another massacre, and little Bonnie can't go to Camp Crystal Lake this year because everybody's dead. The film ends with a final showdown between Tommy and Jason in the lake that is just... I really enjoy it. The lake's on fire, Tommy's in a boat, he's in the water, Jason's bouncing up and down out of the water. It really is a fun thrill ride. Now, this particular entry is written and directed by Tom McLoughlin, who, when this film was released in '86, had just one film under his belt, the 1983 horror film with Meg Tilly called One Dark Night, which had been fairly successful and caught the attention of the Friday film's main producer, Frank Mancuso Jr. Mancuso was interested in bringing Jason back, and apart from that, the brief was just to let McLoughlin have complete free rein on the film. What strikes me watching this film is McLaughlin's clear love of the Universal horror classics and also British Hammer horrors. He decides to bring in so much kind of gothic flavour to his sequel. Gone is the attempt to make this a grounded story about teens and just trying to coax good performances out of them to make us really care about them. And in this, it's making Jason the main draw of the film. Now, that's not to say that the Matthews as Tommy isn't engaging. Actually, all of the additional cast members of this are really likeable, and I think because they're given quite interesting dialogue, and dialogue that feels real to them, that it just doesn't come off as fake or phony as kids being dragged out of drama school to be in one of these things. Now, behind the mask this time, as Jason, is CJ Graham, who secured the role after... This is a very, very strange story, but he was seen playing Jason in a nightclub act by some Paramount producer. He wasn't the original person cast as Jason. That was Dan Bradley, who was fired after the filming of the paintball scene, as they just didn't think he was as threatening as Jason needed to be, even though that scene is quite fun. The Friday series has always had kind of those moments of humour, particularly from Part 3 onwards, but the jokes never really landed for me as much as they do here, and they just come across as clumsy. McLaughlin is not shy with calling out the reputation that the film has with critics and, breaking the fourth wall.
Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
And this is all well before Kevin Williamson and Scream, but McLaughlin really is kind of talking about the state of horror films, American consumerism, you can even say, in some shots. And just poking fun at Friday the 13th as a series in general, letting the audience know that, yeah, we know these are a bit not great, to be honest, but look, we know that. You're now in the hands of a director who actually understands the history of this series. I love the fact that the cemetery is called the Eternal Peace Cemetery. It's And at this time, the late 70s horror boom had expanded rapidly, with all major studios attempting to make a quick buck off the trend of a stalk and slash. Each one would try and outdo the last with its gore and special effects and try and push the envelope as far as they could. Jason Lives succeeds where others fail by making sure that entertainment value really is the main prize. It's not all about jump scares anymore. It's a film that has action and comedy and supernatural mumbo jumbo to vanquish the killer. Plus, we also have Alice Cooper with a rock soundtrack for this film. I mean, what isn't to like? Jason isn't a killing machine anymore. He's a rock star. As you can probably tell, I really enjoy this film, and it's a complete comfort watch for me. I normally pair it with a viewing of Dream Warriors that would come out in 1987. Add in a takeaway of your choice, and nothing much can go wrong. Jason Lives opened on the 1st of August 1986, and unfortunately for McLaughlin, became the lowest grossing film of the series so far. I think that just means that audience fatigue was setting in, and the golden age of the slasher was dying out. The film has since gone up in estimation for horror fans, and McLaughlin is witty and interesting whenever he's talking about this film. He's a real champion of the series, and I'm glad he was allowed to make this film the way he did. Jason wouldn't return again until 1988 with The New Blood, when the studios didn't want any more schlock. They wanted prestige, awards even. To see how that fared, join me again next Friday the 13th. But for now, I'll say thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.